What's good, my people? Welcome into Buckets Action Network's daily NBA betting podcast. We're in the workshop. Game 4 NBA Finals. Boston Celtics up 3-0, but we still have to get the fourth W to get the Larry O'Brien. That's how we do. Got my guys with me. Jim Turvey, Gilles Gallant. We got a couple plays for you for Game 4. We always got to find the money, no matter if we think the series is over or not. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Go download the Action Network app. Subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Sometimes, if you listen to this on audio only, we get into a lot of different stuff on the video. It gives you a little nuanced facial expressions, different type of things you don't get with the audio only. So make sure you subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Go download the app. Still, I know it's going to be summertime. We'll still have tons of content coming out via the Action Network app. Baseball, the Olympics, I'm sure we'll find a market there. We'll try to attack and talk about. I'm actually interested to see what lines are open for the Olympics. But stay tuned. We'll have some more hoops there as well, women's and men's. So a lot of stuff to go through. You know how we get down. We give the play, we give the cap, we get you guys out of here. Jim Turvey, give me your best bets for Game 4 of the NBA Finals.
I got two that are directly tied to Game 4. I got keep it simple, Boston money line, and then I got keep it simple. We're going to run it back for the fourth straight time. The fourth quarter under 50.5.
Gilles.
Yeah, Sean, I'm running back two bets that actually fell short in Game 3. I'm going to go with Drew Holiday over 10.5 rebounds and assists. And then I'm looking at Captain Complainer, Luka Doncic, and I'm going to take the over on his 3 points, over 3.5 3-pointers.
I'm going to go Boston Celtics team total over 105.5. Try to find the best juice out there. It's pretty, there's a lot of different variables across different spots. Find the best number you can. All right, Gilles, I'm going to come right back to you because then we can talk about Luka. We can chirp in about that, and then I'll come to Turvey because he also has some series leaders markets he wants to go over, which will be a lot of fun to talk through. But Gilles, I agree. Well, first things first, fellas. If the Boston Celtics do end up closing this out, this potentially may be the last Buckets, at least best bet episode. So congratulations. Salute to you guys for a phenomenal NBA season, if this is the last one. But let's not count our Larry O'Brien episodes before they hatch. Gilles, I was on Luka. I gave out on NBA Bet on NBA TV, I gave out Luka to lead the game in threes. Consistently, the prop has been at 3.5 the entire series. Mm-hmm. It was juiced up to minus 170 in Game 3. I mean, he gets the volume. He's averaging right around 11 attempts in the conference finals and in the finals. Only got up 7 the other night, but we know he took a little early break and left with about 4 and change left in the game. Yeah, talk to me about why you're going back to Luka on the triple side, and then we'll get to the rest of the plays.
For sure. I think you made a really good point there when you brought up what his over-under three-point line has been through each of these games. It's been at 3.5, but mega steamed to the over. Now, because he fell short in Game 3, getting a bit of a discounted line where it's minus 115 on either side, especially because he hit this in Game 1 and Game 2, and he's hit this in 8 of the last 10 playoff games overall. And you also made a good point there about the volume, because to me, the volume is key of why you take the over on this prop. So in the playoffs, when Luka takes 10 or more 3-point shots, he's hit this in 8 of 11 games so far this year. And then another prop trend that I follow specifically with Luka, and I've been doing it in these playoffs, is closeout Luka, meaning like how he plays in the playoff games where the series could be decided. So in his career, he's played 9 playoff closeout games. Super dangerous from 3-point. He averages 10.8 3-point shots per game in his career in closeout games, and he's hit this in 7 of those 9 games. And then also for shits and gigs, I just looked up how he plays after he's fouled out of a game, because that was only the 3rd time he's ever fouled out of a game. And both times that he did, it was against the Phoenix Suns in the bubble in 2020 and at the start of the 2022 season against like a really crappy Magic team. In those games, he scored 44 and 41 points. So he's going to probably come out, unload the clip on this team in Game 4, especially after fouling out, where I think he'll have even more leeway to be on the floor after calling out the refs. So Luka Doncic over 3.5 3-pointers is my best bet for Game 4.
Yeah, Turvey, last 6 games, he's been the leader in 3s and 4. It's been that 4+ mark number. As I mentioned, over his last 31 games, He's hit 4+ in 20. Last 11, 4+ in 8 of those games. 5+ in 5 games. So, or in 4 games, excuse me. So we know Luka Doncic is going to get him up. We know I fell for the Boston's so balanced that everyone's going to hit 2 and then Luka will hit 4 and we'll just sail into the sunset. But of course, Derek White and a lot of other guys, Kyrie actually knocked down a lot of triples from deep as well. So that did not come in. But yeah, I have a hard time arguing with a guy I know is going to get up 11 attempts and is one of the best shooters in the league, especially when it comes to like the step back type of spot. Turvey, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like the cap, and actually, I like the cap enough that so if you followed pre-series, we were on Derek White to lead the series in threes, and he does have the lead right now, and he's minus money. I like the cap enough that I'm like, maybe I will put a tiny bit on Luka to lead in threes. You'll hear later why I think this series is going to close out in 4. But even if it closes out in 4, a big game from Luka and Derek White, a quiet game, it's not far enough away that it's not imaginable. So I might try and cover myself just a little bit, guarantee myself, lock in that profit, because we got Derek White at 5-1 before the series.
Yes,
he's now the leader. I might leverage that a little bit because I do think Luka's going to come out and, like you said, empty the clip. I think he's not going to leave much behind. So I really like the cap as a whole. The juice comparison is really interesting. It makes me think if they're overweighing last game when he didn't get the last 4 minutes to get up the normal amount of attempts and makes that he normally is going to have. So I really like that, and I'm going to sprinkle a touch on him to lead the series in threes, just to leverage out of that Derek White position a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a serious bettor and are legitimately in it for the long term, I think it's always a really good idea to hedge. For example, I have a pretty big slip on Boston minus 1.5 games, so 6 or less, and then I had Boston money line that I had tied with something else. And when they went up 2-0, I figured the only way they would lose the series was Dallas in 7 games, so I bet Dallas in 7 games. I'd rather give up that little sliver of profit for a piece of mind, and just in case the spectacular does happen, you always want to feel like you're in a mental space. The couple $100 that I hedged out was worth my mental clarity if something did end up happening. I think that is always a lesson in that. If you're in it if you're in it to have fun and you just want to sweat your ass off all the time, then never hedge and just have fun and enjoy yourself. But if you're trying to string the weeks and the months and the years, I'm never going to tell you not to hedge in a spot where you have a big play out there. All right, Gilles, I'm coming back to you for the Jrue Holiday play.
Yep.
I have a slip on Jrue Holiday series average under 5.2 rebounds. That shit is shredded in the dumpster, on fire, whatever you want to do. It is already done and dusted, right? I had a horrific read that they were not going to have it as easy on the glass, Boston, and especially Jrue Holiday was going to be the odd man out when it came to who wasn't going to get boards. I underestimated the guy Jrue Holiday's heart. He is actually picking up boards other people seem to not want. If there's been any 50-50 rebound and Jrue is in the vicinity, he has been picking it up. I was dead wrong. I'll take the L on the chin. Talk to me about why you're going rebounds plus assists here over 10.5.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty insane too, Sean, when you think about the fact that through 3 games, he leads the finals for all players in rebound chances at 14.7 per game. So Jrue, he's hit this now in 6 of the last 7 games and 8 of the last 10 games overall. So he had 13 rebounds and assists in game 1, 14 in game 2. But why we're going back to it is because he fell short in game 3, but they're still pricing it like as if he was getting the same kind of pace. Like, it was a bit of a bad luck too, if you actually look at the way game 3 played out, because the chances were there. Like, he had 5 assists, still saw 9 potential assists in that game. That's right in line with the first 2 games that he played. But where it fell short was the rebounds, because he only had 4 rebounds, but he still saw 9 rebound chances. That was second on the team behind Jaylen Brown in game 3. And why I continue to be encouraged with Jrue Holiday, because of that odd man out aspect. That's not the way Missoula's having his rotations with him. 42 minutes in game 3, second game in a row where he's played 40 or more minutes in this series, making impact plays on both sides of the court and getting key offensive rebounds. Drew actually leads the entire series in offensive rebounds for either team, 9 total offensive rebounds through 3 games. I think had he had cashed this in game 3, we might be looking at a line at 11.5 or higher. So I feel like we're getting, again, much like the Luka play, I feel like we're getting a bit of a discount because of what we saw in game 3 and a little bit of recency bias.
Yeah, Turvey, I mean, I was dead wrong on my guy, Drew Holiday. He's such an impact dude. And I think when you have 2 guys like Brown and Tatum, I love Derek White, I love Drew Holiday. A lot of the stuff that would be a lot more difficult that they do on a night-to-night is a lot easier because of the guys that they have around them. For example, I'm on record saying Michael Porter Jr. has the easiest fucking job in the NBA. Like, no, I think I would argue with anybody about that. I believe he has the easiest job in the NBA. He gets a lot of uncontested rebounds, and he just catches and shoots wide open looks a lot of the time where Jokic is hitting him right in the shooter slot, and he gets up jumpers. They have the clutch guy in Jamal Murray that can go to work on the 1v1 type of situation. He is under no pressure to do anything but catch and shoot and rebound here and there. So I'm on record of saying that, and that's kind of the beneficiary of having big-time superstars around you. Drew Holiday does all the dirty stuff, but the dirty stuff is a little easier.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I think it's, I think there's a bigger conversation to be had about, Luka versus Tatum is they've kind of been, put against each other a lot. And I think most people are team Luka at this point, but I do think it is at least worth mentioning that Tatum makes it easier to play around him, whereas Luka demands a very specific style of play, very specific style of player. And I think it's to Tatum's credit. And I think it shouldn't be undersold that he does make room for other players to be really good around him. And I think Drew is, if you could pick any player of this generation to kind of be the anything around the star type player, I mean, there's a reason Drew's looking like he might get his second ring with his second team here. He's so good at that, all that stuff. One of the most likable winning players around. And this was a bet. I was on this exact bet with you, Gilles, in game 3. I think one of the harder things to do as a bettor is to run back the exact same bet after it loses. But if the process is there, you shouldn't be scared off. Run it back, especially if they are pricing it, the same. They didn't adjust. You mentioned, Gilles, the minutes per game for Drew are there. The process is there. Let's run it back. We had a little bit of bad luck. Hopefully we have a little bit of good luck. There's nothing you can do to control the luck. You got to just kind of keep rolling it out. And just because you lose it one time, if the process is good, don't be scared off it the second time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we know, I think that's a good point on the minutes as well. Gilles, you had something else you wanted to say real quick?
I was just surprised at the shade Michael Porter Jr. was getting in this cap process. I was like,
it's not shade. It's partly just like when you have a good team and it's a good fit, that's how it looks. Like, I have one job. That's what I do. Like, that's what a really good team looks like. When stuff starts to bleed over and you're doing stuff that you're not good at and you get exposed and people are talking about you, that's when the team isn't necessarily constructed the best way or to its highest capacity. So, yeah. And I mean, Gilles, let me know where I lied in that statement. That guy has an easy gig out there for $25 million in Denver. We could argue about that all day. Maybe we'll do this on another episode.
I was just gonna say if it's the Lakers, basically every game he looks like Luka himself. So I was gonna say when against the Lakers, he's getting 10 boards and 5 threes a game. Every other team, he looks pedestrian.
There you go. All right, Turvey, let's talk Boston Celtics money line. We've talked about the fourth quarter as well, and then we'll talk some series props, and then I'll talk a little more Celtics, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, for sure. So if you've listened to Buckets before, I'm sure you have. You didn't just stumble on this for the first time. I typically like to do the player prop stuff. That's kind of where I like to dig in and find all the random little edges and player props. This game 4 is one that I'm a little bit nervous to be on the player prop side of things, in part because, to his credit, I think it has been needed. But Jayson Kidd's kind of just throwing spaghetti at the wall right now. We had Tim Hardaway Jr. get a lot of minutes last night. We saw Exum come out, actually get a bucket, and then get pulled. He got like 3 minutes. So he's trying everything. Then Derek Jones Jr. had his lowest minutes. Gafford played well in game 2. Then he saw more of the bench in game 3. So he's just trying to do anything that'll work right now. And I think trying to guess what his rotations are going to be is a fool's errand. So I'm kind of just trying to stick to what have I seen that I know in this series. I know that Boston's defense traveled to Dallas and they did the thing that I wanted to see from them. I thought that Dallas's role players, the Derek Jones Juniors, the Dante Exums, they were going to shoot better in game 3 and potentially, give Dallas the boost they needed to win the game. Nope. Boston's defense has been absolutely incredible. The scheme has been so good. Outside of Dallas's big 3 of Luka, Kyrie, and PJ Washington. Actually, let's make a little guessing game here. I'll have you guys guess. Outside of those 3 best players for Dallas, how many threes have the Mavericks attempted and how many threes have the Mavericks made all series long outside of those 3 guys?
All right, well, we saw Exum hit one last night, so that's one. I'll say Derek Jones hasn't hit one. I know that. I'll say they're 2 for 9.
All series.
All series outside of those 3, yeah.
And I was going to say, I think Hardy might have hit one in one of those games. If he didn't, then it's 2 for 9. But I was going to say 3 for 10.
It's a little bit higher. I guess maybe I oversold a little bit. It's 5 for 22. But if you go over, that means they're averaging basically a 2 for 7 outside of their 3 best players. This is the team that took the second most threes per game in the regular season. It's the team that they beat the Thunder because they had all these guys looking like they were like, the war, like it was clay out there. And the Boston has cut off, they just turned off the faucet. Joe Mazzulla and this defense has really done a good job of saying, we're not going to blitz Luka and give him all of those passes to open shooters and let those guys get comfortable. They didn't even have the confidence to take those shots at home in game 3. So if you're entirely putting all of the pressure on Luka and Kyrie, I mean, Kyrie, this was in the first half of game 3. We talked about how good this spot is for Dallas. The team's 0-2 coming back home. They kill it in the first half historically. They got 20 points from Kyrie. They got amazing work from Luka in the first half. They're up by 1 at the half. I hope you followed in the bet. I instantly bet on Boston at the half. I was like, if you just got 20 from Kyrie, a bunch from Luka, and all of the trends were saying you should be cooking right now, and it wasn't happening. What happened instantly? Boston went on a run. It only became a close game because Boston did the thing where they took their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. Now that's why I'm a little. This is my best bet, but this game in general it scares me a little bit because this game 4 is kind of the perfect spot for them to treat it like the fourth quarter of a big game and take the foot off the gas and do the dumb mid-range shots that we saw Tatum do at times. But I can't see a way that unless Boston plays dumb, which is an option, that's definitely a thing that can happen. I don't see a way to Dallas winning this because Boston's defensive scheme has just traveled so well and they've really just match up perfectly. And I think more often than not, we're getting on the Boston side of things, and it's basically a pick 'em right now. So I'll be all over Boston money line here.
Gilles, a couple things really quick. The Tim Hardaway Jr. spaghetti hit the wall and bounced across the street. Okay, the Tim Hardaway Jr. spaghetti didn't stick at all, and I was one of the guys clamoring for Tim Hardaway Jr. to get some looks, and he looked pathetic. It was bad. He didn't look very good. So I wanted
him to play too, and I thought he would be. He wouldn't have the fear to shoot. He didn't have the fear to shoot. He had the fear to make, though. I think he was 0 for 5.
Exactly. Yeah, he was 0 for 5. That's exactly what he was from the field. So that's tough. But go ahead, Gilles. I forgot the other part I was going to say. I'll try to remember.
No, I was just going to say, I think Jim made a good point about the periphery players right now on the Mavericks and not being able to kind of trust or rely on that. And you're seeing that in the prop markets where you're seeing like live, we have, a 16.5 points and a rebounds line coming into game 3. That's up to like 18.5 now. I would not feel good about taking an over on that, knowing that Gafford could all of a sudden get more minutes as a result. It just, there's a lot of volatility. So I'm with you. Whereas with Luka, he's going to play 40 minutes. Drew, barring injury or foul trouble, he's going to probably play 40 minutes. So at least there's a little bit of reliability and consistency on that front, knowing they're going to at least be on the court as much as possible. But I am with you about the Celtics money line. I may end up actually waiting until maybe second quarter, like maybe midway through the first quarter, just to see what Dallas is doing early, because the Celtics showed me in game 3, that's what I was kind of waiting for, is can you weather that storm, that opening quarter of Kyrie coming out hot, Luka taking step backs, and just everybody being able to play well in front of their home crowd. And they just weathered the storm, slowly chipped away, ended up only trailing by 1 at halftime. So for me, that was the one thing that I saw where I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do in game 4. If it's a pick 'em like this, is I'm just going to wait to see if the Celtics maybe get down by 10, maybe able to get like a plus 200 on a money line or something like that, and feel much better about it going into halftime. Because at this point, again, I don't want to call it a coin flip game. I think the Celtics are going to win. I just want a little more value on the money line. That's me. I'm just greedy.
Yeah, no, and that's smart. And it's all about making plays you feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable laying minus 110, minus 115 on the price, then try to find a live market that you can get. And the key in the lesson is, if you don't get that market that you want, then you missed it. You don't have it. It didn't come. It didn't show itself. Don't force plays ever. Yeah. That's
not an L if you didn't play it.
Yes, that's when you start to make mistakes. If you go into a live market, like Gilles just said, and so like I'm looking for like right around 2-1, then why are you placing plus 130? You're lying to yourself. You're not sticking to your word. That's when things start to get slippery and start getting haywire. But to chime in on what you guys are saying, maybe this is a different Boston team. Maybe all that stuff that Jaylen Brown and the guys are saying is different, because going back to Indiana, game 1, I guess you could say they didn't fold. Maybe you think Indiana gave that game away more than Jaylen Brown had a shot, but they still stayed with it and had to convert on those extra possessions that Halliburton and the Pacers gave them. They converted. There was I can't remember if it was game 3 or game 4 versus the Pacers, but that game got tight. And throughout the years, we've seen Boston fold up in that spot and just essentially give up, not show up, not know what to do. They knew what to do. They ended up getting the win there. Go to game 1 of the finals. Shit got tight in the third quarter. They were called. They come out of the timeout and blow their doors off again. Then they blow. We were really close, fellas, to having a cataclysmic loss for the Boston Celtics. Not like, oh, it was a close game all game and the Mavericks won by 6 points. Then the post-game press conferences, hey, they got one at home. We lost. All good. If they blew a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter, it is damn near like they lost the series. That would have been the conversation going around. So they were able to hold on. They did what they needed to do. Jaylen Brown, it's been reported by everybody that every time there's a timeout, he's the guy chirping in the huddles and stuff like that. So maybe it is. This might actually go down as how impactful previous narratives can be on price. We should have been emptying the bank account to bet the Celtics to win the East months ago. I got it at plus 110. I probably should have got it at plus 200, right? I was even scared. Then we got to even money, and I'm like, all right, I have to fire here. It is what it is, right? And then we get to the finals. The whole fucking world is picking the Mavs in 6. Like, come on, what are we talking about, right? And the money line in this spot was like, I saw it as low as minus 215, minus 220. Like that's going to go down as one of the most mispriced series we've seen, especially if they go out and sweep these guys. So yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Turvey, go ahead and jump into the rest of the place.
Yeah, I'll just say to follow up to that, we had a little segment on Green Dot today talking through, like, is this team underappreciated? It sounds like you maybe are on the side of thinking this team's underappreciated. I skew towards not saying that they're overrated, but maybe more saying that they are properly appreciated as is. And this is kind of like a milestone year for them. Because I do think it has to be noted, like, how easy this run has been for them. Like they have had players missing left and right. And this Dallas team I don't think any of us would say in a vacuum that this Dallas team is the best team in the Western Conference. I think the Western Conference is really deep and it's a lot of kind of like matchup stuff. And so they matched up well. And now they don't match up well with Boston, but I think is another part of like things breaking right for Boston. It sounds like I'm a hater. Maybe I am to a certain degree, but I actually think that it's kind of like if this team wants to be, kind of one of these, cornerstone, in dynasties, like this is to me the first step in it is you do the, like you said, you tighten things up at the end of games. You check that box. That was the biggest question. You check that box. Then next year can be, okay, the East is back. It's healthier. Can you get through that gamut? Can you maybe beat a Denver or a Minnesota in the finals, teams that maybe we see as a little bit, net value, tougher matchup for Boston? That's step two. Then it's like you clear that. Now now there's no questions asked whatsoever. I think it's fair to still have questions while also respecting this title and saying there's nothing they can do. They played the teams in front of them. They won the games in front of them. They've been amazing. This is not to take away from them. It's more just to kind of level set where I see them historically. I'm not putting them on the all-time tier just yet, whereas the numbers would very much put them on that all-time tier. If they close it out and go 80-20 with the net rating they have, they look like one of the best teams of all time. I want to see them do a little bit more next year. If that makes me a hater, it makes me a hater.
Last
Jim,
point, Jill, really quick.
I was going to say, Jim, I think as time passes, the narrative of them walking through the East will subside. I think really as time, like I can think of right now, 2 or 3 instances right now where in the NBA finals, an injury or a key missing player swung the entire series. You can go look at 2019 for the Raptors. Sure. You can look at 2016 with the 3-1 comeback if Draymond plays game 5. You could even go back to LeBron's second title when they beat the Spurs. Tony Parker got hurt in game 1. He was cooking them in game 1, ended up not really playing that much or as many minutes the rest of the series. Totally impacted that. People just think of the Ray Allen 3 from that series, but Tony Parker was probably their second best player, and he wasn't playing that well for the remainder of the series. So all that to say, I'm with you, Jim. I think the Celtics will get their proper respect, but historians like us will still remember that they went through the East and basically played nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, it's tough because I think that's why people were picking the Mavs. I'm more on the camp of like, if Donovan Mitchell plays, they strap him up and they beat them too. Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, run out whoever, like, so like, I understand they didn't end up playing anyone, but I'm pretty confident that Jimmy Butler plays, he gets strapped and they lose. Like,
it's a great point, Sean. And to your bigger point, it might be why Boston still gets a little undervalued next year. If you're fully in, and I'm still quite, there's going to be people still with questions. It might be that they're still somehow undervalued next year, even if they win it this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about this fourth quarter before we go an hour and Matt Mitchell's hitting us in the Slack.
Yeah, this one, honestly, I'm going to keep it super quick. I've rolled it out every game. It's 3-0 this finals. It's 13-4 for Boston all postseason. It is a two-sided bet, but it's Boston who's really driving the value here. It was 52-29-1 for Boston during the regular season. It was 66-36 last year. This Boston team, they're a fourth quarter under machine. It's because their offense and clutch rating isn't great. Their defense and clutch rating is awesome, and they have a lot of blowouts which tend to skew to fourth quarter unders. You can't go wrong. Maybe the middle path where it's like a 10-point game is the scariest, but we literally just had that and it still went under last game. So it's brought down a little bit just because the game total is under right now, but 50.5, I still like it. I'm going to like it. I'm going to roll it out every game. They're going to give it to me for this whole final. So we'll take the fourth quarter under here, 50.5.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue. And I've said it to anyone who will listen to me. It's very clear. Luka Doncic is vastly more impactful in the first quarter, and he gets tired and runs out of gas, and they have no answer on offense in the fourth. I think that's a big portion of it. All right, let's talk series markets and leaders. You think there's a little bit of value still on the board, Turvey?
Yeah, I'll keep these relatively quick because we have gone long here. But I thought that the assist and rebound market were both pretty interesting to look at. So right now, the Luka is still the assist leader market favorite, despite the fact that Tatum has more assists. And all series we've been saying Luka, this Boston scheme has been crafted to not let Luka get assists. So I think it's kind of crazy. You can get Tatum at plus 130 right now, despite the fact that he has 4 more assists than Luka right now. So Luka would have to, if we're thinking this ends in 4 potentially, that's a wild number. Now, the longer this goes, the more chaos gets brought into it. But the other one that's crazy, Jaylen Brown's only 1 behind Luka. Now, if you look at potentials for the series as a whole, it's Tatum at 11.7, JB at 11.3, then all the way down to Luka at 9.7. Jaylen Brown, you can get 80-1 to lead in assists right now. If we think this could end in game 4, we just need one kind of kooky, weird game where Jaylen goes out and gets a lot of assists again, and suddenly he's at the top. 80-1 to me is kind of a crazy number. So those are two that I'll be sprinkling there as kind of a fade of Luka's assists. And then the rebound leader market is another one that's a little bit funky. I was on Tatum pre-series. He is one behind Luka right now, but Lively is in third. Derek Lively is in third. He's only one behind Tatum and two behind Luka. He got a lot more minutes. He played actually a playoff high in minutes in game 3. Again, trying to solve these Jayson Kidd rotations is a little bit tricky, but they were a lot better with Lively on the court than they were with Gafford on the court. So I think Kidd's going to go back to Lively in game 3. You can get him to lead in rebounds at plus 350. He snatches up rebounds when he's on the court. He had 13 in his 30 minutes. And I talked about this pre-series a little bit when I talked about how Boston and Dallas both like to kind of box guys out and let Luka and Tatum get the rebounds. Lively does that a little bit less. He just kind of wants to get the rebound. I think it's maybe he's a young kid. He hasn't solved that just yet to like get the box out and let Luka get the rebound. He's like, I'm just getting this rebound. So he's snagging up a higher percentage of his rebound chances. So if he gets the minutes again, getting him at plus 350 to lead in rebounds is one that I really like. Especially if, the shorter the series goes. I'm leaning towards Boston. I want to get, kind of that quick hit bet on Lively for game 4.
Luka's got to have that Russell Westbrook conversation with Lively. Like, look here, brother. These are all my rebounds. Gilles, any thoughts on that series market?
I really like the rebound one. I think if anything, you'd want to probably even look at Lively, maybe even 15 plus rebounds, just in an individual game market, because he finished with 26 rebound chances in 30 minutes in game 3. So I can't imagine that Jayson Kidd, that's not really been the issue with the front court. It's been mainly the scoring and the shooting and the 3-point shooting. So I think Lively, I'm with you, Turvey. I think out of all the periphery players for the Mavericks, I think Lively is probably the one that, outside of PJ Washington, obviously, that has a little more consistency of knowing that he's going to get probably 30 plus minutes.
Yeah, and he's so active, man. Lively is so active. He got the game 1 under his belt, and he's been very involved in game 2, game 3. So I like what I see from Lively. I will also keep this quick. I'm going to go Boston Celtics team total over 105.5. Trying to find the best juice number you can. But they've gone over this in 2 of 3, and in the game they didn't go over, they landed at 105. So they've been right around this number the entire series, and I don't think they particularly put together a full Boston Celtics balanced offensive game. They've went on crazy spurts where they've looked like the Boston Celtics, but I think overall they still haven't played that well on offense. I know Tatum then picked it up, but the efficiency still isn't there. But without Jaylen Brown's 30 efficiently, that 60-point plus duo doesn't feel as good. So I still think there's some meat on the bone offensively. And if they can get any resistance from the Dallas Mavericks on offense where they feel like they may need to turn it up a notch on offense, then this should be 110, 111, 112 from the Boston Celtics in a closeout or not. If they have to go back to Boston, fine. That's the only reason I'm playing this here. I think it gives me a bit of security. The Mavericks haven't cracked 100 points. I know a lot of that is the Boston Celtics playing defense in the matchups, but if they could just get a little offense rolling, I think that pushes Boston over 105.5. And even if they don't, say Boston does close these guys out, if they play a balanced, fluid game for 4 quarters to win the championship, I think that nets them over 105.5 on the team total. So I'll take the Boston Celtics and lay a couple extra cents there. All right, to recap, Gilles is on Luka over 3.5 triples and Drew Holiday over 10.5 rebounds plus assists. Jim Turvey, Boston Celtics money line and fourth quarter under 50.5. Take a peek at some of those series markets, rebounds, assists. There's some potential value there. And then I'm on the Celtics team total over 105.5. For Gilles Gallant, for Jim Turvey, I am your host, Sean Little. Hopefully, I'm on the Celtics, so hopefully this is the last buckets. Hopefully I don't talk to these guys until later. But if not, we'll see you guys for Game 5. But if not, thank you everyone for listening, of course, throughout. We'll see if Matt Moore and the gang put together a season recap episode. But either way, this potentially has the last if it goes how Turvey says it's going to go, this is the last best bets episode of Buckets. Appreciate all the support throughout the year. For Jim Turvey, for Gilles Gallant, I'm your host, Sean Little. Don't forget it. get buckets, baby. We'll see y'all later.